I'm always up for a good movie.
Go rogue in the all-new fiercely reimagined Nissan Rogue.
Rated M for mature.
First things first, I'ma say all the words inside my head. I'm fired up and tired of the way that things have been. The way that things have been.
The reimagined Nissan Rogue.
Rated M for mature.
Are you a believer? Raid Shadow Legends. Play for free.
What time is it? You already know. Time to answer questions with championships. Time to be recognized, posterized, criticized.
They didn't show up in the big game.
It's time to get this thing started so we can see how it all ends.
Jalen and Jacoby is presented by Crown Royal Regal Apple. Great taste is great taste is great taste. Drink responsibly. Part of Happy Hour.
Look at what we got coming up for you on ESPN Wednesday. It's the Warriors and the Clippers. Friday, Clippers and Warriors again. And then we have the wild card game between the Ravens and Titans on Sunday. And then on Monday, it is the national championship game. What a lineup coming up on ESPN. Jalen, Browns fans were so happy the playoff drought was ended. They were just so happy. And then we have this news. Head coach Kevin Stefanski, 2 coaches, and 2 players have tested positive. They've closed the facility. Stefanski will not be coaching in the wild card game against the Steelers. Just after some good news, some really bad news for the Browns. Don't you feel it for this fan base?
Well, props to the NFL for getting through their regular season, but don't be surprised if this not only happens to the Browns, but a couple other teams as well.
Not only will the Browns and Steelers be matching up this weekend, we have another matchup that we'd like to discuss here with 2 people that are very important to us here at Jalen and Jacoby. Snoop Dogg and Eminem, 2 of our favorite people on the planet, 2 of the best artists to ever do it, are going back and forth in songs and on social. Jalen, how can we end this? How do we stop this?
I do not want to live in a hip-hop world where Eminem and Snoop ain't seeing eye to eye. We got to bring the Dogfather on and talk to him about this.
Let's get Snoop on the show.
What's going on.
Let's get Snoop on the show. Snoop made the mistake of calling me from his phone. I've got his number in my phone. Let's hit up Snoop and get him on the show. We'll be back tomorrow, 2 p.m., maybe with Snoop. Who knows?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Highly Questionable. I am Bomani Jones. I'm not used to actually introducing myself when we start this show. Katie Nolan on one side, Izzy Gutierrez on the other. Y'all ready to rock?
Let's do it.
The only Hispanic left.
Ah, yes. Representation.
I hated that I said let's do it, and I really appreciate that you said that.
Would it make sense for the Jaguars to break the bank for Urban Meyer?
All right, so this is what we are hearing now as the coaching carousel begins. It seems like a team has done that thing where they're like, Rooney Rule? What Rooney Rule? We know what white man we want. And the white man that Jacksonville seems to want is Urban Meyer. And the word is that Shad Khan would be willing to offer him $12 million a year to coach the team. I'm not pocket watching, so I don't really care so much about the fact that they would give him $12 million. There is no coaching salary cap. If you want to do that, go ahead, because that's probably what it would cost to get Urban Meyer to coach your team. My question is, how many years are you talking about on that deal? Are you talking about like a John Gruden 10-year deal? Because that would be a horrible idea. True story on Urban Meyer. He's only had 2 seasons as a coach with more than 3 losses in college. One time he lost 4 games in Tim Tebow's year where he won the Heisman. Then he had a 5-loss season at Florida. You know what he did after it? Quit his job because he was so burnt out. This is not a dude that's built for the long haul. Like, do you think that you can win a championship with Urban Meyer in 3 or 4 years? Because that's basically what he did at all his college stops. And then not too long after that, it was time for Urban Meyer to go. So give him the $12 million a year. I need to know how many years you're talking about giving him.
Well, I'm not worried about breaking the bank. I'm not even worried about how many years, although you make a great point there because he seems to flame out pretty quickly after he wins. What I'm worried about is what his strengths are as an NFL coach, Bo. And I can ask both of you guys because I don't know what that is. His biggest strength as a college coach is essentially creating a culture. Yeah, he did a lot of work with that spread offense and he won championships with that. But is that innovative today? Do we have any idea he's going to come in with, by the way, an abundance of riches in that Jacksonville draft this year, right? You're coming in a great situation, potentially with the number one quarterback drafted in Trevor Lawrence. If you don't have the respect of the players in that locker room, it doesn't really matter what you're bringing in unless you're bringing in something crazy innovative. And I don't think he has that. We've seen Cliff Kingsbury try to do that in Arizona, and that's flamed out pretty quickly. So what are Urban Meyer's strengths that he's going to come in and own that locker room and bring the Jaguars into a legitimate team? I don't see it yet. I know I'm not paying that kind of money. I'd rather pay it to Eric Bieniemy, a guy that I know can take that offense to great places.
Well, it's funny, Izzy, because you say he creates a culture, which Urban Meyer unmistakably does. Is the culture necessarily good? Like, for the three people who watched my show, you know that I've got my own issues with Urban Meyer, but I would be foolish to think that those are issues that anybody making a decision involving coaching a football team cares about those. So it's interesting to me, for if you're going to spend the money on him, which they have and they can, we talk a lot about with players and their money, can he stay healthy? But for some reason, when it's a coach, it's like, oh, you're not supposed to talk about that. That's uncomfortable. But like Urban Meyer has had health issues. And like Bo said, it's kind of the same point, but his is smarter, but I'm going to say mine anyway. If you're paying a guy that much money, you would like to think he's going to be able to show up to every game and be healthy and not have some sort of an issue that's going to make the contract shorter, which again is Bo's point that I'm essentially making. I don't like Urban Meyer, and I'm trying to not say that.
Not liking Urban Meyer is a perfectly fair point. Now, Izzy, you talk about what does he have that he could bring. You can talk about culture or whatever. This is one thing I'll say from Urban Meyer. He is one of these dudes that being a broadcaster has made it very clear to me why he was such a good coach. And the biggest thing that will land with me that I've heard him say is, if you do not win, it is not the players' fault. Your players are good. It is your job as a coach to find a way to put those players in a position in order to win. And that seems to me to be a way to win over every single locker room that you have. The weight is all on me if we win or if we lose.
The thing that looks to me like an issue and a problem looks to the owner of a team like an advantage. So I understand that. I'm not naive, but I'm still allowed to be like, this guy.
If you are the Jacksonville Jaguars and you have arguably the most attractive NFL job, why are you picking Urban Meyer? Are you picking him because of what you say, Bo? He's going to bring an accountability to the locker room? Or would you rather bring in somebody that can say, I want to recreate the Kansas City Chiefs offense? Because I know in the NFL, you can turn it around like that. And I know with that Kansas City Chiefs offense, you can turn it around like that. So I'm not really worried about the accountability that Urban Meyer is going to bring into the locker room, because I think the players or the coach that wins will earn that regardless.
They are saying we want the dude that won at Bowling Green and Utah before he won the national champ. Like, let's not act like this dude isn't one of the greatest to ever do it. That's the reason people are willing to swallow everything else that came with him.
How much does he make as a broadcaster?
Not $12 million. And if he does, who is your agent?
Do you see a path for Doug Peterson to fix his relationship with his players?
All right, so there's a big coaching story that might affect the playoffs, which is Kevin Stefanski getting on that COVID protocol list and will not be coaching this weekend for the Cleveland Browns. But that ain't nearly as much fun as what's going on with Doug Peterson. The Philadelphia Inquirer says that multiple defensive players had to be restrained from confronting him on the sideline once they realized they were putting that Nate Sudfeld character into the game. And how is this going to affect Doug Peterson? I feel like he's done in that town, right? Now, maybe number one, you can get all the guys off that had a problem with him, right? This is football, that if your locker room doesn't like you, you can go get another locker room. At the same time, this is the kind of thing that makes people look at you different. And it seems that just about anybody who's on that team is going to be looking at them different because they thought they were coming to win. And little did they know Doug Peterson was coming to do whatever the hell Doug Peterson was doing, because he can't even coherently explain why it is that he did what he did. And I don't know if you can come back so easy on that. Now, Katie, I want to ask you if you saw this. Your man, Judge Joe Brown, Joe Judge, whatever his name is, the dude that coaches the Giants, he seemed very, very much so offended by what the Eagles did. Here's what he had to say about it.
There's a number of sacrifices been made by all the players and coaches in this league.
That dude's only 38.
There's a number of sacrifices that come along as well with the family members of the people connected to them. to disrespect the effort that everyone put forward to make this season a success for the National Football League, to disrespect the game by going out there and not competing for 60 minutes and doing everything you can to help those players win, we will never do that as long as I'm the head coach of the New York Giants.
Okay. I get it. He has a point. And look, I thought that Giants players had a point. I liked seeing them tweet specifically about this because this should be something that makes players mad. Like, Bo, you said you can get the guys who didn't like it out of the locker room and replace them with guys who will like it. But you don't want a football team of guys who will like something like this. It seems like we're blowing it out of proportion, but when you think about it, if you're playing a football game as
You know, I watched him play when I covered the Clippers, and the one thing I know about him is that he works hard. But in some ways, guys want to prove to the team that didn't want them that they're better, and they made a mistake. So some of that is just a little being, look, I got some swag, I'm tough. You guys miss me, I know you miss me, you won't say it. And here, take this conversation back with you. It doesn't really matter to me a whole lot. Just go out there and play the game, but it's the new NBA. Players talk that stuff, and it's kind of fun.
That stuff, yes. I think
filter yourself.
I think Montrez is basically just saying, hey, I'm enjoying kind of the free-flowing nature of Frank Vogel and his staff. They're not saying, hey, you have to set this screen here. You go down to the post and up to the elbow and this and that. They're like, just do what you do best. Just get rebounds. Be active around the basket, as far as like layups and dunks and alley-oops. And I'm sure it's a little bit more technical than that, but it sounds like he's really feeling free to be himself. Even though, as BT said, the numbers are down a little bit. That's what happens when you play alongside two very good big men, as far as Anthony Davis. And I'm sure LeBron James will call him a big man, too.
Look, Mark didn't have to say what he said last night about Montrezl Harrell, but he did, and I'm glad he did. He's not just an energy guy. It's something we see right away when you watch him play the game, but there is a lot of talent there, and I think the reason why he's been able to be successful, BT, is, as you mentioned, he's playing alongside two of the best in the game right now, but he's still finding ways. I mean, he can go out and get a double-double without a play being called for him. How valuable is that?
Look, there was one highlight we ran there where he was shooting the little jump hook from about 8 feet away. You didn't see that much last season. He was mostly a pick and roll guy with his boy. They did that the best in the league, but now he's expanded his game. So he's telling everyone in the league that I can do more than just pick and roll, get rebounds and dunk the basketball. I can rebound the ball. I can also take charges on defense. I mean, Trez is a very unique player because he's listed at 6'8". Is he really 6'8", Mike Bresnahan? I'm thinking more 6'7" at the tallest. But his motor is as high as anyone I've seen in a very long time.
Yeah, BT, he had a little bit more of an offseason than anyone on the Lakers. Obviously, the Clippers were done in the second round. And it's pretty apparent to me that he worked on some stuff. We saw a little bit of it in the preseason when he was starting to hit 15, 16-footers along the baseline. As BT said, he had a nice little, almost like a floater the other day. I'm like, oh, I don't think I've seen that in his game that often. But Montrez, he just feels very comfortable in this system. I think he probably appreciated and enjoyed the fact that the Lakers went after him right away. Like, he was their #1 priority as a free agent with the money, the limited money that they had to spend. And I'm sure he really appreciated that, too.
Hey, it always feels good to be wanted.
All right.
From Montrez to the next guy on the bench who's really starting to come into his own, Wes Matthews. Guys, he's been fun to watch. Another thing he told us last night, BT, on that Zoom interview post-game, was that, and I loved this, as we are watching his offense come to fruition, it's about the defensive end of the floor that engages him and ignites him first. I mean, to have...
Allie, that defense is #1. And you and I both heard that on that Zoom that Mike Breslingham was not on.
Well, I'm really glad to hear you guys are working
louder.
so hard on these Zoom chats. I mean, you must have to really, get your computer up and running.
We
as
do.
we know with BTS,
Our lights.
As we know, BTS not really his strong suit, being a computer guy in the IT department. But yeah, everything BT said is absolutely correct. And I actually was in the Zoom chat the night that Wesley was 6 for 6 from three-point range. And I talked about this on the pregame show yesterday. I said, hey, that's pretty impressive. You took 6 shots, all from three-point range, and you made all 6. And he was like, yeah, so is there a question there? He was kind of like, yeah, I expect to do that. I expect to be...
I think it helps, but, we want to manage the season outside of the wins and losses. You know what I mean? Our daily process, we have a pretty steady tone with our teaching, that removes whether we won or lost the game. There's lessons to be learned in every game. So that sort of applies to our process. And I would say that in terms of your question, managing, different combinations and who's in, who's out, those types of things. I think we also try to remove, where we're at in the standings and all those types of things, and just have a mindset to grow throughout the year. And hopefully land in a spot where we're positioning ourselves the second half of the year to go into the playoffs playing the best basketball of the year.
Really interesting to hear that insight, guys, because it's so easy nowadays to get caught up in standings and stats and numbers and where the team is and base it off of solely those hard facts. But I think what we learned last season, when you're a new team coming together, it's hard to win a championship, let alone to do it in that sort of fashion. And it's those little things, it's the details, BT, that this team is chasing after and succeeding with.
Almost a similar situation this past offseason, as short as it was. It felt like 10 minutes or whatever. But they say goodbye to some very important people. JaVale, Dwight, Rondo. And I'll stop right there. But those 3 are pretty big names, a lot of veteranism, as our friend Robert Ory would say. And they're coming together very nicely. 5-2 is about what I would have expected for a team that had only 71 days off from the Game 5 in the finals, or Game 6, I should say, until opening night.
Let's dive into that record a little bit more, Brez. Thanks for the segue. BT, I know it's only a small sample size, 7 games, but what has impressed you most, stood out to you most with this squad?
The willingness to pass the basketball to each other. The Lakers are averaging...
He hadn't had that slight injury that cost him a game.
Are you two friends? Because if someone's tuning into the show for the first time, they would think not. Just leave
I consider
right
BT a friend.
there.
No.
Let's take a look
one
at
yes,
the
one no.
Lakers' next 5 games. It's another meeting with the Grizzlies again on Tuesday at 5 p.m. before coming home, where they'll play the Spurs Thursday night, and then the Bulls on Friday. After that, it's a mini 2-game road series against the Rockets. You can see every game right here on Spectrum Sportsnet. For more, let's send it over to Chris McGee and Derek Fisher.
Thanks, Allie. D-Fish, the Lakers go to 5-2. I know it's early, 7 games in. What are you seeing from this Laker team? Something you like, maybe, or something you want to see them working on as well?
Something's starting to improve, in particular the defense. That makes me really, really happy about the direction that this is going. Early to start the season, still early, but, lack of engagement, such a quick turnaround on a championship season. But you're starting to see the level of engagement raising and guys starting to really get committed to the defensive end as they learn how to communicate with each other better. And that's a good sign this early in the season.
Do they have the makeup to be a top 10 defensive team? And I know it's early, but you just see teams kind of scoring on them early, attacking the paint. But when they really put their mind to it and focus and lock in, they look pretty good defensively. So it's kind of hard to tell where they're going to be.
Yeah, it is difficult. I think this season, how teams are going to fare out offensively is still shaping up. There have been some injuries. It is, for sure. I think physically, in particular for your veteran players, it's tough to put into words. where your body is a lot of nights. Now that you've reintroduced the travel aspect of an NBA season, there's definitely wear and tear from that perspective. The calendar in terms of training, not really having the off season to prepare your body and your mind for another season, those things impact you. And, playing in the finals and winning a championship, that is the highest bar you can get for. We should do this actually every Monday.